Eingalde is one of the most largest continents of Ein. It sits way up in the north, stationed above New Ein. Eingalde is one of the most largest continents of Ein. It sits way up in the north, stationed above New Eingalde. Unlike New Eingalde, which houses a multitude of different bestial races and other species, Eingalde is widely known to be the homeland of one beastkin race in particular, that being the Elkai. There is one other race that also happens to live amongst the Elkai, known as the Raskin. However, they are few and far, and are deemed more as pests of the land than a fair race that lives there. Regardless, Eingalde stands as the most richest continent of the world. Not only does it provide home to one of the trees of life, it also provides as a rich source of magicka straight from the tree itself, providing the land its lush green appearance. The wildlife of the land grows in plentiful numbers, seemingly having no natural predators to prey on them. This does not cause the threat of overpopulation to tarnish the land, as the wildlife primarily feeds on the greenery there. The natural flow of magicka that courses from the roots of the tree of life feeds into the soil of the land and everything connected to it. This means that every living creature, from the dirt to the rocks, and up to the tallest of trees, depends on the tree of life, for it is a constant source of life itself. Because of this, the tree is under the protection of the Elkai there. They worship the tree as they would with the gods, and take great care to pay homage to that factor. With a shrine built around it, and its mortal protectors eternally guarding it, the tree of life stands a prominent figure of that piece of the world. Great figures from around the world pay their respects to this single tree of life and give their blessings to it. They would often leave gifts and idols of their chosen god to help protect it from the harms of the natural corruption that would seek to destroy it, leaving the lush land as it is, a pure place of serenity and solitude of mind. Monks and priests often come here and pray to their chosen god without the interruption of the world around them, thus coining Eingalde as a holy place of comfort and peace. Till this day, many have sought to come to this place, seeking to do the same thing these ancient monks and priests did, only to find out that they are now disallowed to enter the sanctum, for this land proved to be much too powerful of an influence on the population, drawing in many people who simply wanted to visit there with no intentions on preserving the land, thus preventing the chance of it being corrupted. Open access to this sanctum would give knowledge to the fallen one through the eyes of others and seek the land out for himself. The Elkai are a race of elk-like kin with flat faces and noses. They closely resemble a kin with elk features such as horns, hooves for feet, and short bushy tails. The Elkai as a race can come in various shapes and sizes. However, they do not stand any taller than the standard humanoid being, ranging from 4 feet all the way to 7 feet tall. The male usually sport horns which they use to court or joust with each other. However, some females of the subspecies can also sport horns. These horns are typically dressed to impress the subject or subjects of their choice. The Elkai are not usually violent beings, as they tend to keep to their own kind and form many herds. These herds of family are usually kept by a male Elkai who acts as its protector or head helm. A male Elkai will also form herds of female Elkai, not of his family. These herds are also called harems. The Elkai, whom all live close to one another, often live in sheltered communities, which means they do little to no socializing with other kin outside of their race. This often leaves the otherwise civilized race somewhat closed-minded about the rest of the world around them. However, this does not seem to bother the Elkai as a whole, for they are a plentiful folk. Not only are they highly sophisticated, they are also very adept magicka users. Most Elkai within Eingalde are all strong magi and use the force of Ao air magicka. There are few who will use the other forms of magicka, but never black magicka, for black magicka is deemed as the force of evil, believing to keep the cause of corruption out of their holy land. The living arrangements of the Elkai are also highly advanced over the other races of the world. They use the trees as plentiful resources to build strong wooden shelters called houses. These houses are what you'd expect to see from a modern setting placed on Earth, with angled roofs and 4 walls. There are windows as well as chimney chutes for ventilations for the built-in fireplaces inside. The interior is also all made of wood. However, the various shapes of the furniture differs from the carpenter that builds it. They have found a way to even round out corners of tables and other sharp-edged objects, making great use of the wood they gain from the surrounding trees. Not all of their structures are made of wood, however. Over time, they have come to incorporate stone into their works, creating even stronger structure for shelter. Where the wooden houses were mostly built within the tall trees, these stony homes were built on the ground for better support. They also held up better against the weather. Thankfully, the weather of Eingalde never altered from it being sunny and humid, which would contribute the large greenery life there. The most severe weather to hit Eingalde would be the occasional windy rainstorms they'd get from across the sea. However, due to the density of their forest, it never does any damage, but cause a little concern for the Elkai there. Aside from the Elkai being one of the more advanced civilizations, they are also versatile as a race. Elkai are typically found in Eingalde. However, over the years, they have been known to venture out of their homeland and colonize in other regions of the world, such as New Eingalde, Volraya, Layla, Isles of Ikuda, and even Alaska. Not many know just how adaptable the Elkai can be, simply because they choose to stick to their own kind, as well as stay within close proximity of their homeland. However, due to the ambitious goals of expanding their reach as well as their sense of power, the Elkai have found it beneficial for themselves that they breach new land and discover new knowledge that would further advance them and their future aims. Despite the Elkai's best efforts to keep others out of their sacred homeland, the Raskin would find a way to invade their territory and make it their home as well. And because of the abundance of life, coupled with the Raskin's unnatural ability to copulate in vast numbers, they were able to grow immensely large in over a short period of time, threatening to overpopulate the Elkai as a whole. This threatened not only the well-being of the Elkai, but as well as their home. The Tree of Life's support could not withstand the sheer number of Raskin born every day. They would eat everything they could find. Their diet seemed to have no threshold of what they could consume. This included grain from the soil, fruit the trees bared, even the bodies of other dead species. However, their favorite diet seemed to be the leaves from the trees. These succulent leaves provided a good source of nutrients and held an unnatural sweet flavor. The bearing of these trees left some areas of forest clean of life and unsightly to the Elkai, who wished to eradicate these pests from their land once and for all. Pushed to their breaking point, the Elkai waged war against the Raskin, using their strong force of magicka to eliminate them. However, the vast majority of the Raskin would survive and create more of their kind. This gave the Raskin a clear advantage in this war for living space, along with the fact that they have plentiful sources of magicka stored in them by the diet of the surrounding leaves, the heavily magicka-induced trees provided. Though they were small, they were powerful enough to stand against the Elkai and drive them off, if but only for a moment before the anger which the Elkai held for the Raskin would evoke such a wrathful use of their magicka, creating explosive asher fire and winds of magic that would blow across the land and whip trees out from the ground. Seeing the additional damage they had caused to their homeland due to their wrath over the Raskin has opened the eyes of the angered Elkai and encouraged them to come to some sort of resolution to the problem rather than make it worse. A treaty was formed between the Elkai and the Raskin, who agreed that upon one of Raskin youngkin coming of age, they must leave the forest of Eingalde and forge a new life and family on their own. This agreement has become the foundation of Raskin tradition and has turned their kind into renowned pilgrims of the beast kingdom.